She unfolded it on the reception desk. Notebook paper, torn carefully at the edge, not ripped. Folded twice, the creases worn soft. She'd folded and unfolded it enough times that the paper knew where to go. 7 items. Numbered. The handwriting was small and even. The kind of handwriting that came from someone who'd been told more than once not to waste space. The receptionist read it. She didn't say anything for a moment, because the list wasn't what you expected from an 11-year-old asking to pay a $9,400 bill. It wasn't a child's list. It was a plan. Someone had sat down the night before, maybe earlier, maybe the same night her mother came out of surgery, and thought, what can I actually do? Not what she wished she could do. Not what she needed someone else to do. What she, specifically, an 11-year-old with 2 hands and a subway pass and a Tuesday free, could actually do. Wash windows, clean waiting rooms, water plants, sort mail, file papers, run errands, and at the bottom 7, tutor math, grades 3 and 4. I'm good at explaining. That last line, I'm good at explaining. Not I get straight A's. Not I'm smart. Just, I have this one thing and I want you to know it's real. The receptionist looked up. The girl was watching her read. Not anxiously, just waiting. The way you waited when you'd done everything you could think to do, and now it was someone else's turn. Maya had made the list at 11:47 p.m. She knew the time because she'd looked at the clock when she finished. Not to check how late it was, to write it down. At the top of the page, before the 7 items, in the small, even handwriting, her 3rd grade teacher had called precise, and her mother had called careful. Tuesday, 11:47 p.m. She dated everything. Her mother had taught her that if you write something down, write when you wrote it. Otherwise, you won't know if it still matters. Her mother had been in the hospital for 3 days. The bill had arrived that afternoon by email. Maya had seen it on her mother's laptop, which she'd been using for homework because her own was broken and had been broken for 2 months and was on the list of things they were going to deal with when things settled down. Things had not been settling down. $47,382. She'd read the number 3 times. Then she'd found the insurance explanation. 80% covered. Remaining balance, $9,400. Due within 30 days. She'd opened a new document. She'd typed, what cannot as a question, as a prompt. The way her mother typed things when she needed to think through them, statements that were questions, that were problems, that were, if you thought about them long enough, plans. She'd sat at the kitchen table for 40 minutes. The apartment was quiet, in the way apartments were quiet at 11 at night, when the person who usually made noise in them was somewhere else, not empty. Maya was there, and the cat was there, and the refrigerator was doing what refrigerators did. But the quiet had a shape to it that it didn't have when her mother was home. She'd noticed that shape on the first night. She'd stopped noticing it by the second. You could get used to most things in 48 hours if you had to. She'd written the list by hand. Not because she didn't have the laptop, because some things needed to be written by hand to know if they were real. Typing was fast. Writing was slow enough to feel each word before the next one came, to ask, is this actually something or am I just filling space? Wash windows. Real. She was tall for 11. She'd washed the windows in their apartment twice. Clean waiting rooms. Real. She knew how to clean. Her mother had taught her when she was 7. Not as a chore, but as a practice. A clean space thinks better than a messy one. Water plants. Real, probably. Most places had plants. Sort mail. Real. She helped with the mail at her school's front office on Thursdays. File papers. She wasn't sure about this one. She'd written it and left it. Run errands. Real. She knew the subway. She'd been riding it alone since she was 9, which her mother had said was old enough as long as she texted when she got on and when she got off. She'd texted this morning when she got on. She'd texted when she got off. Her mother hadn't responded because her mother was in the hospital and her phone was in a bag in a locker, and the nurse had said she was resting, and resting was good. Tutor math, grades 3 and 4. I'm good at explaining. She'd added that last part, I'm good at explaining, after she'd written the item and looked at it and thought, anyone can say they tutor. She needed them to know it was real. It was real. She'd been tutoring her neighbor's daughter, Cora, for 8 months, unofficially. Cora was in 3rd grade and cried when she didn't understand something, and Maya had learned, over 8 months, that Cora didn't need the answer explained differently. She needed to know that not understanding yet was different from not understanding ever. She'd told Cora that once. Cora had looked at her, then she'd gotten back to work. Maya had thought about charging for it, had decided not to because Cora's mom, Mrs. Okafor, sometimes brought food when she picked Cora up, and food was its own kind of payment and you didn't double charge. She looked at the finished list. 7 items. $9,100 divided by what she could reasonably charge per hour for window washing. She'd looked this up. $15 to $25. She'd charge $15 to be competitive. Was 6 and 26 hours. She'd done that math. She'd done it and looked at the number and understood that the list was not going to pay the bill. She'd folded it anyway. Not because she thought it would work, because the alternative to the list was sitting in the quiet apartment with the shape of her mother's absence and the number $9,400 and nothing to do with her hands. The list gave her hands something to do. The list meant tomorrow she would wake up and go somewhere and try something, and that was better than the other thing. She knew about the other thing. The other thing was lying in bed thinking about the what-ifs. She'd learned at 9 years old, when her mother had lost her job and they'd had to move apartments, that the what-ifs were a room you could walk into and never find the door out of. She didn't go into that room. She made lists instead. She folded the list twice. She put it in the front pocket of her jacket. She set her alarm for 7. She turned off the kitchen light. She went to check on the cat, who was asleep on her mother's pillow the way he always slept when her mother wasn't home. Not in his usual spot at the foot of the bed, on the pillow, where her mother's smell was strongest. She stood in the doorway. She thought about her father. Not specifically, she didn't have specifics. She'd been 2 when he died. What she had was the shape of him. A photograph on the bookshelf, her mother's voice when she talked about him. The specific way her mother said, your father would have before something that was usually about fixing things. Your father would have figured this out. Your father was good at finding the solution that wasn't obvious yet. She looked at the cat on the pillow. She went to bed. At 7:03, she was up. At 7:41, she was on the subway. At 8:47, she was at the reception desk of Whitmore Medical Center with a list in her hand and a bill in her pocket and the specific, quiet determination of someone who had already done the hard part, which was deciding to come and was now just executing. She unfolded the list. She smoothed it flat. She asked to speak to whoever was in charge of the bills. James Whitmore had been at the hospital since 6, not because anything was wrong, because 6 was when he got there on Tuesdays, and had been getting there on Tuesdays since 2009 when he'd opened the cardiac wing and had decided, in the specific way you made decisions when you were 39, and building something and hadn't yet learned to pace yourself, that 6 was a reasonable time to start. He was 54 now. 6 was still when he got there. Some decisions calcified into identity before you noticed. He'd been in his office when Patricia, the Tuesday morning receptionist, 22 years at the front desk, the institutional memory of Whitmore Medical in human form, had knocked and said, there's a situation at reception. You should probably see yourself. Patricia did not use the word situation lightly. He'd followed her out. He'd stopped in the hallway when he saw the girl, 11, maybe 12. Small for her age, or just small, the way some kids were small without it meaning anything. Standing at the counter with a piece of paper smoothed flat in front of her, talking to Patricia's replacement, the Tuesday morning backup, newer, still learning when to call Patricia. With the focused patience of someone who had rehearsed what they were going to say and was saying it. He couldn't hear the words from the hallway. He could read the room. The backup receptionist didn't know what to do. The 2 people in the waiting area had stopped looking at their phones. The girl was not crying, was not performing distress, was just there, present, making a case for something with a piece of paper and whatever words she'd decided on. He walked to the desk. He saw the list. He read it in 4 seconds. He'd spent 30 years learning to read things fast. Charts, scans, the specific shorthand of a situation that required immediate understanding. The list took 4 seconds, and what he understood in those 4 seconds was not 7 items. It was a night. Someone had spent a night on this. He looked at the bill beside the list. Linda Chen. He went still in the way he went still in surgery when something required his complete attention, and his complete attention was the only thing that was going to be sufficient. Chen. He said, "I'll take it from here." To the backup receptionist, who looked relieved in the way people looked relieved when someone more senior arrived and the decision became someone else's. He looked at the girl. "Come with me," he said. His office was on the 4th floor. He didn't take her there immediately. He took her to the small conference room on the 2nd floor, the one used for family consultations, with the round table and the chairs that were slightly more comfortable than regular office chairs, and the box of tissues on the table that everyone noticed and no one mentioned. He didn't want her in his office. His office had the contract on the desk. He'd been looking at it since yesterday morning, 47 pages. His lawyer had walked him through it on Monday. The acquiring group, a hospital management company out of Chicago, had been patient, professional, and specific about what the acquisition would mean for Whitmore Medical. Higher service rates, restructured billing, elimination of the hardship assistance program that James had funded personally since 2014, the program that currently had 63 active cases in the system. Linda Chen was case 64. She'd been flagged for consideration that morning, before James had reached the office. He'd seen her name on the intake list and had noted it and had moved on because the intake list had 14 names on it, and he moved through the intake list every morning before 6:30. He hadn't connected the name. He was connecting it now. He sat across from the girl at the round table. She had the list in one hand and the bill in the other, and she put both on the table and looked at him with the specific directness of someone who had decided before they walked in that they were going to look whoever they talked to directly in the eyes, because looking away would be easier, and easier was not what she was here for. "What's your name?" he said. "Maya Chen," she said. He looked at the bill. Linda Chen. Patient admitted Sunday. Cardiac surgery Monday. Currently in recovery. "Your mom?" he said. "Yes," she said. He looked at the list. "You made this last night," he said. Not a question. "Yes," she said. "Why windows?" he said. "First on the list." She thought about it. "Because I'm tall enough," she said. "And it's something people can see when it's done. I thought that would make it easier to trust that I'd done it right." He looked at her. "How did you get here?" he said. "Subway," she said. "The Orange Line to Back Bay." "Alone?" "I texted my mom when I got on," she said. "And when I got off." She didn't answer because she's a pause. Brief. The pause of someone who had been managing something and had it surface unexpectedly. "She's here." So, he said. She nodded. He looked at the bill. 9,400. He looked at the list. 7 items. He thought about the contract on his desk upstairs, the hardship assistance program being eliminated, the 63 active cases, the 64th. He thought about 2009. He always thought about 2009 when he thought about Chen. He'd been 39. The cardiac wing had been open for 8 months. He'd been performing 4 surgeries a week and running a department and building something, and had been in the way of people building things, not entirely present in his own life. Then the call had come. A donor heart. Compatible. The recipient had been waiting 11 months. The surgery had taken 6 hours. The recipient had lived. James had stood in the scrub room afterward, with his hands under the water, and had understood, in the specific way you understood things when you were standing in a room alone after something enormous, that what had just happened was not separable from what someone else had lost. He'd never been able to find out who. The donor system was anonymous. He'd known that going in. He'd requested information through the proper channels. Not the recipient's identity, that was sealed. The donor family's information, a way to reach them, a way to say thank you. The organization had sent a letter on his behalf. He'd never heard back. He'd told himself the family had moved on. He'd told himself this for 15 years. The girl across from him had been 2 years old in 2009. "Maya," he said. "Yes," she said. "Your father," he said. "What happened to him?" She looked at him, not with suspicion, with the careful attention of someone trying to understand why a stranger was asking something personal, and whether the asking was the kind that deserved an answer. She decided it was. "He died," she said, "when I was 2. He looked at his hands, the same hands that had been under the water in 2009. "I never met him," Maya said. "But my mom says he was good at fixing things." James looked at the list on the table, at the girl who had spent a night making it, At the handwriting that was small and even and careful. At the last line, I'm good at explaining. He thought about a heart that had been good at beating. He thought about a man who had been good at fixing things. He thought about a daughter who had inherited something she didn't know she'd inherited, the specific, practical instinct to look at what was broken and ask, not why is this broken, but what can I do? He looked at the contract upstairs, at the hardship program being eliminated, at 64 people whose cases would be closed, at the 47 pages he hadn't signed yet. He picked up the list. He read it again. All 7 items, especially the last one. I'm good at explaining. He put the list down. Tell me about your mom, he said. Maya talked about her mother the way she did everything. Directly, without performance. Starting with the facts and letting the facts carry what they carry. Linda Chen worked at a nonprofit in Roxbury. Grant writing, program coordination, the specific kind of work that produced outcomes for other people, and not particularly good health insurance for the person doing it. She'd been there 9 years. She was good at it. She likes fixing things that are broken in ways other people have stopped noticing, Maya said. That's how she described her job once. I wrote it down. James looked at her. You write things down, he said. If it seems important, she said. He thought about the list. About Tuesday, 11:47 p.m. at the top. The surgery, he said. What happened? Sunday morning, she said. Her chest felt strange, Maya said. Not painful. Strange. She called the advice nurse and they said, come in. She paused. It moved fast after that. He knew what fast meant in cardiac cases. He'd looked at Linda Chen's chart before he'd left his office. Aortic dissection. The kind that killed people in the gap between noticing something was wrong and getting to someone who could fix it. Linda had made it to someone who could fix it. The gap had been 40 minutes. 40 minutes was luck and a good advice nurse, and a woman who'd called when something felt strange rather than waiting to see if strange became something clearer. She's going to be okay, James said. Maya looked at him. I know, she said. The doctor told me. I asked for the actual statistics and she looked surprised, but she told me. He almost smiled. What did she say? He said. 94% survival rate for patients who receive surgical intervention within 6 hours of onset, Maya said. My mom got there in 40 minutes. You looked it up, he said. After she told me, Maya said, to make sure it was accurate. He looked at the list on the table, at the girl who verified statistics and wrote down things that seemed important and had made it to his hospital on the orange line at 8:47 in the morning with a plan she already knew was insufficient and had come anyway. Your father, he said. You said he liked fixing things. That's what my mom says, Maya said. I don't remember him. I was 2. What else does she say about him? Maya thought about it. That he was patient, she said. Not patient like waiting. Patient like. He didn't get frustrated when something didn't work first time. He just tried again differently. She paused. She says I get that from him. I don't know if that's true or if she just says it because it's nice. James looked at his hands. What was his name? He said. A pause. Small. The kind that happened when a question landed somewhere unexpected. David, she said. David Chen. The room was quiet. James looked at the table, at the list, at the bill, at the box of tissues nobody had touched. He thought about a surgery in 2009, about standing at the scrub sink afterward with the water running, about writing a letter that had gone through a system designed to protect anonymity and had never produced a response, and that he had filed under things I did what I could about and had not opened since. He thought about a heart that had been beating in someone else's chest for 15 years. He thought about the 47 pages upstairs. Maya, he said. Yes, she said. I need to check something, he said. It's going to take me a few minutes. Will you wait here? She looked at the list on the table. Can I? She started. Yes, he said. You can keep the list. She picked it up, folded it twice, put it back in her pocket. He went upstairs. The file was in the system under donor case 2009-47. He'd never looked it up by name before. He'd looked it up by case number twice, once in 2010, once in 2014, and both times had found only what the system was designed to show, the medical details, the compatibility markers, the surgical outcome, not the donor, not the family. He typed David Chen into the hospital's record system. Not because David Chen had ever been a patient here, because the organ procurement organization that had coordinated the donation in 2009, had a partnership with Whitmore Medical that included shared records for coordination purposes. The file came up. David Chen, 31 years old, admitted to Mass General on the evening of November 14th, 2009 following a motor vehicle accident. Declared brain dead November 15th. Organ donation authorized by next of kin, Linda Chen, wife. James sat back. He read it again. Next of kin, Linda Chen, wife. He thought about a 31-year-old woman in a hospital in 2009 making a decision in the worst hours of her life. Not the decision to donate, that had been David's, documented in his registry, already made. The decision to honor it, to look at the paperwork and sign it, and let the thing he decided be the thing that happened, even when the person who decided it wasn't there anymore to see it through. He thought about Linda Chen at a nonprofit in Roxbury, writing grants for 9 years to fix things that other people had stopped noticing were broken. He thought about Maya at 11, making a list at 11:47 p.m. He thought about the patient. He'd told himself for 15 years that he didn't know who the recipient was. That was true. The system was anonymous in both directions. But he'd known things. He'd known the recipient was a 58-year-old man with end-stage heart failure who had been on the transplant list for 11 months. He'd known the surgery had gone well. He'd known, because he'd followed the case through the appropriate channels, that the recipient had lived for 7 years after the transplant before dying of unrelated causes in 2016. 7 years. David Chen's heart had given a man 7 more years. James had known this and had filed it and had not thought about what it meant for the family who had made that possible. He thought about it now. He looked at the contract on his desk, 47 pages, the acquiring group's logo on the cover page, his signature line on page 47, blank, the pen his lawyer had left sitting across it like a suggestion. He looked at it for a long time. Then he opened his desk drawer. He took out the copy of the letter he'd sent in 2009. He'd kept a copy, not for legal reasons, because he'd needed to know he'd done something. That he hadn't just received what someone else had given and moved on without acknowledgement. The letter was one paragraph. To the family of the donor, I am the surgeon who performed the transplant procedure. I want you to know that the gift your family made has given someone more time with the people they love. There are no words adequate to what you did. I hope you are finding your way through this. I am grateful in ways I will spend the rest of my career trying to be worthy of. One paragraph. He'd spent a week writing it. He looked at it now and understood that it was true, and that it was also insufficient in the specific way that a paragraph was always going to be insufficient for something that had no adequate form. He put the letter in his jacket pocket. He looked at the contract. He left it on the desk. He went back downstairs. Maya was where he'd left her. She'd taken out a book while she waited. A paperback, the cover bent from being carried in a bag. She put it away when he came in without being told, the way kids put things away when an adult returned who had things to say. He sat down. He put the letter on the table between them. She looked at it. What is this? She said. Something I wrote 15 years ago, he said, that I don't think your family ever received. She looked at it. My family, she said. Yes, he said. He watched her understand it. Not all of it. There was too much for all of it to arrive at once. Just the shape of it. That this man across the table knew something about her family. That it was something from before she could remember. That it was why he'd asked about her father. My dad, she said. Yes, he said. She was quiet. He waited. She picked up the letter. She read it. She read it twice, the way she did things that seemed important. She put it down. He helped someone, she said. Not a question. Yes, he said. Is the person okay? She said. The one he helped. James looked at her. At 11 years old, asking the first question that had come to her, not what does this mean for the bill? Not why didn't we know? Not any of the questions James had been preparing to navigate. Is the person okay? He lived for 7 more years, James said, after the surgery. He died in 2016. Maya nodded, slowly. Processing. That's good, she said. 7 years is a lot of time. James looked at the letter on the table, at the girl who had verified survival statistics and dated her list and taken the subway alone and asked to wash windows and was now sitting across from him saying 7 years is a lot of time, like it was simply true. It was simply true. Yes, he said, it is. They sat at the round table for a while after that, not talking, not performing the silence, just inside it, the way two people were sometimes inside the same moment without needing to organize it into conversation. Maya had the letter in her hands. She read it a third time. He watched her read it and thought about the woman who had written a paragraph trying to be understood before she finished that it wasn't going to be adequate and had sent it anyway because inadequate was better than nothing and nothing was the only other option. Can I keep this? Maya said. Yes, he said. It was always yours. She folded it carefully. Not twice like the list, once slowly, the way you folded something you weren't sure yet where it was going to live. She put it in her inside jacket pocket, against her chest. He noticed that. He didn't say anything about it. Maya, he said. The bill. She looked at him. I'm going to take care of it, he said. She was quiet for a moment. Because of my dad, she said. No, he said. She looked at him. Because your mother had cardiac surgery in my hospital, and she qualifies for the hardship assistance program, and she should have been flagged for it on intake, and she wasn't. He paused. That's an administrative failure. It's my responsibility to correct it. She looked at him steadily, reading him the way she'd been reading him since she sat down for the gap between what was said and what was meant. Is that the real reason? She said. He held her gaze. It's a real reason, he said. There's more than one. She accepted that. Not because she was satisfied, because she understood that more than one was honest and one was usually a simplification. The program, she said. The hardship one. Does it always work like this? Someone has to be flagged? Yes, he said. What if they don't get flagged? She said. He looked at the table. Then they don't get the help, he said. How many people don't get flagged? She said. He thought about 63 active cases. He thought about the intake list that morning, 14 names. Linda Chen among them, flagged now, too late for automatic enrollment, requiring manual intervention. He thought about the people on intake lists he didn't look at other hospitals, other systems. The same program architecture replicated across the country, assistance available in theory, accessible in practice, only to people who knew to ask or who happened to be seen by someone who knew to flag them. I don't know, he said. You should probably find out, she said, not unkindly, just accurately. The way she said everything that was true and needed to be said and wasn't being said. He looked at her. Yes, he said, I should. She put her hands flat on the table. The same gesture she'd used smoothing the list at the reception desk. The gesture of someone organizing themselves before the next thing. Can I see my mom? She said. She's in recovery, he said. Visiting is limited to 30 minutes. I know, Maya said. The nurse told me yesterday. I stayed for 28 minutes because I didn't want to make it harder for them to ask me to leave. He looked at her. At 11 years old, managing the feelings of adults who might have to ask her to do something difficult so that the asking would be easier for them. He thought about the contract upstairs, about the acquiring group and their restructured billing, and the elimination of the hardship program, and the 64 people whose cases would be closed. He thought about what easier meant. He'd been telling himself for 3 months that selling was the easier thing. For him, yes, financially, logistically, in terms of the next 30 years of his life. But he'd been collapsing two different kinds of easier into one, and the collapsing had been convenient. Easier for him, harder for 64 people. He hadn't put it that way to himself before. He was putting it that way now. I'll take you up, he said. Recovery was on the 3rd floor. Linda Chen was in room 318. James had checked, not as her physician, as the person responsible for the building she was recovering in, and had spoken with her surgical team that morning. She was stable. The surgery had gone well. The 40 minutes between onset and intervention had made the difference. He walked Maya to the room, not inside, to the door. 28 minutes, he said. She looked at him. Or 30, he said. The nurses won't ask you to leave. She almost smiled. Not quite. The beginning of one, the expression of someone receiving something small and unexpected, and not yet sure whether to let it land. She went in. He stood in the hallway. He could see through the window in the door. Not intrusively, the glass was there for safety. He could see the shape of the room and the shape of 2 people in it. Maya at the bedside. Linda's hand coming up. He looked away. He walked to the window at the end of the hallway. Boston in November. The city doing its morning, the traffic on the bridge, the water flat and gray, the sky the particular white of a day that couldn't decide what it was going to be. He thought about David Chen, 31 years old, good at fixing things, patient, not patient like waiting, patient like trying again differently, dead at 31, his heart beating in someone else's chest for 7 years, his daughter on a subway at 7:41 in the morning with a list of 7 things she could do. He thought about what got passed down, not just genetics, not just appearance. The specific practical instinct that looked at what was broken and asked, what can I do? The instinct that didn't go into the room with the what-ifs. The instinct that made a list at 11:47 p.m. and got on the subway in the morning. David Chen had been good at fixing things. His daughter had inherited it. His wife had spent 9 years fixing things at a nonprofit. James had spent 15 years building something he was now considering selling to a company that would make it harder for people like Linda Chen to get the help they needed when they needed it. He looked at the window. At Boston in November, he thought about what he was good at. He'd been good at surgery, still was, though he did less of it now, more administration, more building, more managing the thing he'd built than doing the thing he'd built it to do. He'd been good at building Whitmore Medical from a department into a center, into something that had become, over 15 years, the kind of place where a woman with an aortic dissection could get to a surgical team in 40 minutes and have a 94% chance of survival. His daughter knew the statistic. He'd built the statistic. He was thinking about selling it. He went back upstairs. He sat at his desk. He looked at the contract, 47 pages. Page 1, acquisition terms. Page 12, service rate restructuring. Page 19, program eliminations, hardship assistance, community outreach. The sliding scale payment structure that currently covered 64 patients, including Linda Chen. Page 47, signature line. He picked up the pen his lawyer had left. He looked at it. He thought about Maya reading the survival statistics and verifying them afterward, about her smoothing the list flat with both hands, about I'm good at explaining, not a boast, an offering. This is real. I want you to know it. He thought about a man who had registered as an organ donor and had never known what that would mean. He thought about what it meant to build something and then decide what it was for. He put the pen down. He picked up the phone. He called his lawyer. Richard, he said, the acquisition. I need to talk about the program eliminations on page 19. A pause. James, Richard said carefully. The acquiring group has been clear that those programs are non-negotiable, James said. I know. That's what I want to talk about. They won't move on it, Richard said. Then we might not have a deal, James said. Silence. The specific silence of a lawyer recalibrating. You've been working toward this for 3 years, Richard said. I know, James said. The offer is? I know what the offer is, James said. I need to know if there's a version of this deal that doesn't eliminate the hardship program. If there isn't, I need to know that too. Richard was quiet. I'll call them, he said. But James, if they say no? James looked at the window. At Boston in November. At the city he'd been practicing in for 26 years. Then I have a hospital to run, he said. He hung up. He sat for a moment. Then he opened his desk drawer. He took out a piece of paper. He wrote at the top, what can I do? Not a question, a prompt. Maya stayed 31 minutes. She came out of room 318 at 10:23 and stood in the hallway for a moment before she saw James by the window at the end of the corridor. She walked toward him. He'd been standing there the whole time. Not waiting exactly. He'd taken 2 calls, answered 4 emails on his phone, done the things that accumulated regardless of what else was happening. But he'd stayed on that floor. He hadn't gone back upstairs. He didn't examine why too closely. How is she? He said. Tired, Maya said, but she knew me right away. She tried to sit up. That's normal, he said. The instinct. I told her not to, Maya said. She listened. She doesn't always. He looked at her. She asked how I got here, Maya said. I told her the subway. She made a face. What kind of face? The kind that means she wants to say something, but she's saving her energy, Maya said. She has different faces for different kinds of not saying things. James thought about learning someone's faces, about the specific literacy of knowing another person well enough to read the versions of their silence. Did you tell her why you came? He said. I told her I was handling some things, Maya said. She accepted that? She's on pain medication, Maya said. Her acceptance threshold is higher than usual. He almost smiled again. This time he let it happen. She noticed, looked at him with the same assessing attention she'd been giving him since the conference room. You don't smile much, she said. I'm working on it, he said. She nodded, like that was a reasonable thing to be working on. They stood at the window. Boston still doing its November morning. A boat on the water, moving slowly, the kind of slow that meant it was working and not recreational. Can I ask you something? Maya said. He said. The program, she said. The hardship one. Is it okay? Is it going to keep existing? He looked at her. Not with surprise. He'd learned in the last 2 hours not to be surprised by what she asked, with the specific attention the question deserved. I don't know yet, he said. I'm working on it. What does working on it look like? She said. I called my lawyer this morning, he said. I'm trying to change the terms of something. What happens if you can't change the terms? Then I don't do the thing, he said. She looked at him. What does that cost you? She said. He looked at the water. $340 million was a number he could say. He could say it, and she would hear it, and probably understand it in the abstract way that large numbers were understood. As real but not tangible. A fact about the world rather than something with weight. He didn't say it. Enough, he said, that it's a real choice. She looked at the water too. My mom makes real choices, she said. She could make more money somewhere else. She stays at the nonprofit because she thinks the work matters. A pause. She doesn't complain about it. But I know it's a choice because sometimes she does the math out loud when she thinks I'm not listening. He looked at her. You listen, he said. I try not to make it obvious, she said. He thought about a woman doing math out loud in an apartment while an 11-year-old pretended not to hear. About the things children absorbed without being taught. About what it meant to grow up, watching someone make choices that cost something. Your dad, he said. The organ donation. Do you know if it was something he'd decided or something your mom decided? She thought about it. Mom said he'd registered, she said, before. It was already decided, she just had to let it happen. That's not small, he said. No, she said. She doesn't talk about it much. But sometimes when something hard comes up, not the same kind of hard, just hard, she says, I've done harder. James looked at the water. I've done harder. He thought about what Linda Chen had done at whatever age she'd been in 2009, 24, maybe, 25, in the worst hours of her life, making a decision that was already made and choosing to honor it. He thought about what it had taken. Not courage exactly. Courage implied it felt brave. He suspected it hadn't felt brave. He suspected it had felt like the only thing that was consistent with who she was. Like anything else, would have required her to be someone different. Maya, he said. Yes, she said. The list, he said. Item 7, tutoring math. She looked at him. You said you're good at explaining, he said. How do you know? She thought about it. Cora, she said. My neighbor's daughter, 3rd grade. She cried when she didn't understand things. She paused. I figured out it wasn't that she didn't understand. It was that she thought not understanding now meant not understanding ever. And you told her that, he said. I told her understanding comes in 2 stages sometimes, she said. Stage 1 is getting the mechanics. Stage 2 is getting why the mechanics work. She was trying to do both at once and it wasn't working. He looked at her. Where did you learn that? He said. I made it up, she said. But it worked. He thought about it. About the specific intelligence of making something up that worked. Not guessing, constructing. Building a framework from observation and testing. He'd done that in surgery once. Early in his career, a situation no protocol covered, a call he'd had to make alone. He'd made it up. It had worked. His attending had asked him afterward how he'd known what to do. I didn't, he'd said. I figured out what made sense and did that. His attending had looked at him for a moment. That's the job, he'd said. James looked at Maya. That's the job, he said. What you described. That's what good teaching is. She considered that. I'm 11, she said. Good teaching isn't about age, he said. It's about understanding how someone else thinks and finding the explanation that fits. She was quiet, not dismissing it, absorbing it. The way she absorbed things, fully, without performance, letting it land. The program, she said again. If you can't change the terms, the 64 people. He looked at her. He hadn't told her about 64 people. She'd been doing math. How did you? He started. You said my mom should have been flagged on intake, she said. You said it was an administrative failure. That means other people get missed too. And you said you were going to take care of her bill because she qualified for the program. So I thought, there must be other people in the program. And if the program goes away, they lose something. She paused. I don't know the number. I said 64 because I don't know. He looked at her. 64 is right, he said. She nodded. Not satisfied, not surprised, just updated the way she received accurate information as data to be incorporated. That's a lot of people, she said. Yes, he said. Are you going to be able to keep the program? She said. I don't know yet, he said. But you're trying, she said. Yes, he said. She looked at the water. My mom says trying is the part you control, she said. The outcome is the part you don't. He looked at the water too, at the boat still moving, still slow, still working. She sounds like someone worth listening to, he said. She is, Maya said. I try to make it obvious. He looked at her. This time she let the smile happen too. Small, brief. The smile of someone who'd been serious for a long time and had found a moment where serious wasn't the only available register. He thought about Richard calling the acquiring group, about page 19, about the version of the deal that kept the program and what that would cost, and whether the acquiring group would walk, and whether walking was a real option, and what real option meant when you'd been building towards something for 3 years. He thought about what can I do on a piece of paper in his desk drawer. He thought about a list with 7 items, and I'm good at explaining at the bottom. He thought about a man who had been good at fixing things and had registered as an organ donor before he was 31 and had never known what that meant. He thought about what it meant to build something and be responsible for what it did. He looked at Maya. Are you hungry? He said. Yes, she said. I didn't eat breakfast. Why not? I was nervous, she said, and I didn't want to be late. Come on, he said. The cafeteria opens at 10:30. She picked up her bag. Is it good? She said. No, he said, but it's food. She considered this. Okay, she said. They walked toward the elevator. Dr. Whitmore, she said. James, he said. She looked at him, the assessing look, deciding if James was appropriate. James, she said, if the deal doesn't work out. The hospital, you'd still run it? Yes, he said. Is that okay? Financially. He looked at her. It's harder, he said, but okay. Harder like a real choice, she said. Yes, he said. Harder like a real choice. She nodded. The elevator came. They got in. She pressed the button for the cafeteria floor, without asking which one it was. She'd looked at the directory in the lobby, he realized, when she arrived. Before she'd even known she'd be here long enough to need lunch, she'd been that prepared. He thought about prepared, about what it meant to be 11 years old, and prepared for a version of the day that included staying for lunch. The elevator opened. They walked toward the cafeteria. James, she said. Yes, he said. I can still wash the windows, she said, if you want. I meant it. He looked at her. I'm good at it, she said. I'm tall enough, and people can see when it's done. He thought about that, about the specific logic of it, about someone who came to negotiate, and, having had the thing they came for resolved, still wanted to honor the original offer, not because she had to, because she'd said she would, and she didn't say things she didn't mean. One window, he said, before you leave. She looked at him. One, she said. Your choice, which one? He said. She nodded, like that was fair, because it was. The cafeteria at Whitmore Medical was not good. James had known this for 15 years and had done nothing about it, because the cafeteria was not his department, in the sense that it was someone else's department, and the food was nutritionally adequate, and adequate had been sufficient because he ate there approximately twice a month, and on those twice-monthly occasions he was usually eating while reading something, and the food was fuel, and fuel didn't need to be good. Maya ate the scrambled eggs with the focused attention of someone who hadn't eaten since yesterday and was not going to pretend otherwise. He drank coffee. They sat at a table by the window. The cafeteria had good windows, large, east-facing, the November light coming in clean and direct. He'd never noticed this before. He noticed it now because the girl across from him had looked at the windows when they walked in and had made a small assessment that he was learning to read. She was deciding which one. The one on the left, he said. She looked at him. It gets the most light, he said, more visible when it's clean. She looked at the window. The one on the right, she said. He looked at it. Smaller. Less prominent. The kind of window that people walk past without looking at. Why? He said. Because the people who sit on that side don't have a view, she said. They're facing the wall. The window is the only thing they can look at. She picked up her fork. If I clean that one, it matters more to them. He looked at the right window. At the people sitting on that side, 3 of them, 2 in scrubs eating fast, 1 in street clothes who had the specific unfocused gaze of someone in a waiting room state of mind, sitting with a bad cup of coffee and a wall and a window. He'd never sat on that side. He always sat by the east-facing windows because the light was good for reading. Okay, he said. The right one. She ate. He drank his coffee. Outside, the morning was becoming afternoon in the way November mornings did, not dramatically, just a shift in the quality of the light, the angle of it changing, the city settling into the middle of the day. His phone buzzed. Richard. He looked at Maya. I need to take this, he said. 2 minutes. She nodded, kept eating. He stepped away from the table. They said no, Richard said, on the program eliminations, non-negotiable. Their exact word was structural. Structural, James said. The programs represent a cost center they've already modeled out, Richard said. Removing them is part of how they make the acquisition profitable in year 1. James looked at Maya through the cafeteria window. She'd finished her eggs. Was looking at the right side window. Not planning, just looking, the way she looked at things she decided about, with the settled attention of a decision already made. What are our options? James said. You accept the terms as written, Richard said. Or you walk. If I walk, James said. What does the hospital look like in 5 years? Richard was quiet. Not because he didn't know. Because what he knew was complicated, and he was a good enough lawyer to understand that complicated answers required care. Harder, Richard said. The capital markets are not friendly right now. You'd need to refinance the expansion debt. Rates are not good, James said. Not good, Richard confirmed. You could do it, but it would take most of what you have, and several years you were planning to spend differently. James looked at the city through the window. He thought about several years he was planning to spend differently. He'd had a plan. The plan had involved the $340 million and a house somewhere without a winter and a version of his life that didn't begin at 6 in the morning unless he wanted it to. He'd been building toward that plan for a long time. Long enough that the plan had started to feel like the point of everything, rather than one possible destination. He thought about when that had happened. He couldn't locate the exact moment, which meant it had been gradual, which meant he'd let it become the point without deciding it was the point. Richard, he said. Yes, Richard said. If I walk, the hospital stays as is. Program's intact. Program's intact, Richard said. Debt restructured. But doable, James said. Doable, Richard said carefully. James, are you sure about this? James looked at Maya. She'd moved the empty plate aside, had taken out a small notebook, different from the list, a proper notebook, spiral-bound, and was writing something, not the list. Something else. Her pen moving fast, the way it moved when she was capturing something before it left. He thought about what can I do on a piece of paper in his desk drawer. He thought about David Chen registering as an organ donor before he was 31. He thought about Linda Chen signing paperwork in the worst hours of her life because it was consistent with who she was. He thought about Maya on the subway at 7:41 with a folded list in her pocket. He thought about what it meant to build something and then decide what it was for. He'd built Whitmore Medical to be the kind of place where people like Linda Chen could walk in with something wrong and walk out alive. The acquiring group would have kept it as a place where people walked in and walked out alive. Just not the same people. I'm sure, he said. Richard was quiet for a moment. I'll call them, he said. I'll let them know. Thank you, James said. He hung up. He stood for a moment in the space between the call and going back to the table. He just walked away from $340 million. He waited to feel something large about that. What he felt was, not small exactly, quiet. The specific quiet of a decision that had been made and was now simply true, no longer a question requiring energy to hold open. He went back to the table. Maya looked up from the notebook. She read his face. He'd noticed she did that. Read faces the way she read everything, for information rather than performance. The deal, she said. Yes, he said. It didn't work out, she said. No, he said. She looked at him. Are you okay? she said. He sat down. He thought about that question, about an 11-year-old asking it directly, without preamble, without the social padding that adults use to approach the same question sideways. Yes, he said. I think so. You think so, she said. I'm still locating how I feel about it, he said, but the decision feels right. Those are sometimes different. She considered that. My mom says that too, she said, that right and easy are different. She's correct, he said. She usually is, Maya said. It's occasionally annoying. He looked at her. She looked back. What's in the notebook? He said. She looked down at it. Things I want to remember, she said, from today. Like what? She read from the page. Understanding comes in two stages sometimes, she said. Stage one is the mechanics. Stage two is why the mechanics work. She'd written down what she'd told him, she told Cora. She was collecting her own thinking. What else? He said. The window on the right, she said. Because the people on that side only have the window. He looked at the right side window. The person in street clothes had gone. Two new people had taken their place. An older man with a paper cup, a woman in a coat who hadn't taken it off, the look of someone who had arrived recently and hadn't decided yet how long they were staying, both of them looking at the window. What else? He said. She hesitated. The first hesitation he'd seen from her. You don't have to show me, he said. It's not. She stopped. It's about my dad. He waited. She looked at the notebook. I was 2, she said. I don't remember him. I have the photograph and what my mom says, and now I have your letter. She paused. But I don't know him. I know about him. He looked at her. I wrote down, knowing about someone is different from knowing them, she said. I'm trying to figure out if you can know someone you never met. He thought about it. Honestly, not the easy answer, the one that was kind and reassuring and insufficient. I think you can know parts of them, he said. The parts that got passed on. She looked at him. Like what? She said. The list, he said. 11:47 p.m. What can I do? That's not something you learned in school. She was quiet. You think that's from him, she said. I think it could be from both of them, he said. Your mom does the math out loud. Your dad fixed things. You make lists and verify statistics and take the subway alone at 7:41. She looked at the notebook. That's not knowing him, she said. That's knowing what I got from him. Yes, he said, but sometimes that's a kind of knowing. She wrote something in the notebook. He didn't ask what. She closed it, put it in her bag. I should go, she said. I told Mrs. Okafor I'd be back by 2. She's watching the cat. Cora's mom? He said. Yes, she said. I texted her from the subway. She stood up. She looked at the right side window. Before I go, she said. Yes, he said. She went to the supply closet by the cafeteria entrance. She'd clocked it when they walked in, he realized, the way she clocked everything, and found what she needed. Paper towels. A spray bottle of glass cleaner on the shelf beside them. She came back. She went to the right side window. She cleaned it. Not fast, carefully. The way she did things she'd said she would do. Top to bottom, overlapping strokes, checking the angle of the light to find what she'd missed. The older man with the paper cup watched her. She finished. She stepped back, looked at it, then at the man. He looked at the window. Better, he said. She nodded. Put the paper towels and the spray bottle back. Came back to James. Okay, she said, I'm done. He walked her to the lobby. At the door she stopped. James, she said. Yes, he said. Thank you, she said, for the letter. And for she stopped, for telling me. Thank you, he said, for coming. She looked at him. I came to wash windows, she said. I know, he said. I'm glad you did. She pushed through the door. He watched her go. Down the front steps, onto the sidewalk. The November wind catching her jacket, the bag on her shoulder, the notebook inside it, with things she wanted to remember from today. She turned left, toward the subway. He stood in the lobby until she was out of sight. Then he went back upstairs. He had a hospital to run. Richard called back on a Thursday. They walked, he said. The acquisition is off. I know, James said. That's what I expected. What do you want to do? Richard said. Keep running the hospital, James said. A pause. Okay, Richard said. He hung up. The contract was gone. He'd had his assistant return it Wednesday morning, the pages back in the envelope back to Richard's office. The desk looked different without it. Not emptier, clearer. He opened the drawer. What can I do? He looked at it for a moment. Then he added a line underneath. Fix what's actually broken. Linda Chen was discharged on a Friday. Maya came to get her. Not alone this time, Mrs. Okafor drove them. Cora in the back seat asking questions about hospitals that Maya answered with the patient precision of someone who had recently acquired specific knowledge and was happy to share it. James wasn't there when they left. He was in a meeting about the hardship program, specifically about the intake process, specifically about why 64 people were in the system when the number should have been higher, specifically about what it would take to make the flagging automatic rather than dependent on whether the right person happened to look at the right name on the right morning. Patricia was in the meeting. Patricia had thoughts. 3 weeks later, a card arrived at the hospital addressed to Dr. James Whitmore. His assistant brought it in. He opened it. Inside in small, even handwriting. The window is still clean. I checked. Maya below that, in different handwriting. Looser. The handwriting of someone writing carefully because they were still recovering and their hands weren't entirely their own yet. Thank you for taking care of my daughter while she was taking care of me. She told me you're good at fixing things. Linda Chen, he read it twice. He put it on his desk, not in a drawer. On the desk, where he could see it. Across the city in an apartment in Roxbury, Maya was tutoring Cora. Stage 1, she was explaining. Stage 2 comes after. Cora was listening. The cat was asleep on the couch. Linda was in the next room, still slow, still careful, the recovery doing its patient work. Maya had checked the hospital's right side cafeteria window on the way out 3 weeks ago. She hadn't gone back. She didn't need to. She knew it was clean. She knew because she'd done it. That was how you knew. If this stayed with you, subscribe if you're new, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and tell me in the comments, what's on your list right now? I read everyone. See you in the next story.